stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
under God,
under God, indivisible.
liberty and justice.
Liberty, justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. We have a full plate. We are still waiting for one trustee, but we should be ready to go in a second. We have a relatively quick agenda, so that should be good. So let's just start going ahead. I'm sure Bob will be here in a second. I know he was having some issues, so hopefully that will fix itself in a second. Can I get a motion to open the meeting, please?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Our first on the public hearings is our local law amending Chapter 80 animals, which will prohibit dogs and animals in certain places. Can I get a motion to open, please?
I'll make the motion open.
Second.
Thank you. Liz, Vale, do you want to talk about what has changed here and what's?
Sure.
Great.
Nothing has changed. We just didn't pursue the parks legislation, which was going to amend the dogs section without amending this section in Chapter 80, which already regulates dogs on Havens Beach. So rather than pursue an entire parks law to accomplish this, we just proceeded with amending Chapter 80. And the amendment is as follows. Dogs and other animals shall be prohibited from the beach and upland areas of Marine Park, Steinbeck Park, and Windmill Park from the Thursday preceding Memorial Day through and including Tuesday following Labor Day under all circumstances. And there's a new provision which states dogs shall be permitted on the grass upland area of Havens Beach Park at all times, but shall be prohibited from the beach area of Havens Beach Park from the Thursday preceding Memorial Day through and including the Tuesday following Labor Day under all circumstances. And that is the proposed local law that's on for a public hearing tonight.
Do we have?
The prohibition for Marine Park is the entire property and year-round?
Yes.
Is it
Thank you.
year round or?
No, I'm sorry. It's not year round. It's during the season. The only prohibition is during the season for Marine Park, Steinbeck Park, and Windmill Park. And it's in the code already that way. And it's from the Thursday preceding Memorial Day through and including Tuesday following Labor Day.
Okay, because Marine Park has had signage year-round. So I guess we will need to talk to Dee about that. If
Yeah,
this
that's
goes
one
through.
of the confusing parts is that there's been signage year round and it hasn't been a law year round. So we are having new signs made and they will talk about what section the law is in. And Liz, what is the fine, or is there a fine, or how?
Oh, the fines are set forth in the code already. Let me pull it up. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
That's a different, that's not an actual local law.
But we should include that information on the sign as well.
Sure.
Tom?
I just want to make a point that, any of these laws, this law is already, this code is already on the books. And my concern with any of these laws is enforcement. Who's going to enforce these codes, or who has been enforcing the codes? Is this a code enforcement thing, or is this a police thing? And have we talked to code enforcement and PD about this?
I did refer this to the chief of police, and he gave me input on this as well. So I wanted to make sure it was something that could be enforced. The penalties for offenses are set forth in Village Code Section 80-6, and they're set forth there. There's a minimum fine of $200. They're a violation under the law. So,
And Tom, we are in discussions with AJ about moving the whole code enforcement over to the police department in general.
And how does,
He's been open to that.
and how does the police chief feel about that?
He's okay with it. He was okay about working it in. I think it would be a much more effective method. All areas of code enforcement? Yes.
The, well, yes, all areas, but the code enforcement will that way have better supervision and be also much more in touch with the police and be able to have a police radio, which right now they're not allowed to. So by moving them under the police, they will be able to reach one another faster. So if code enforcement needs backup and or if the police need code enforcement, if they get to something that is really not their thing, they can reach code enforcement faster. It is an ongoing conversation and has not been finalized, but.
Could we hear from AJ some night on this? I'd like to get his opinions firsthand and see where.
On the code enforcement or on the dog law?
Oh, on the code enforcement. I think
Yes,
the dog situation, I'm very
Exactly.
clear on.
No, we, AJ and our building inspector and I were supposed to meet this week, and we just have not found a time that works for all three of us.
Okay,
So,
thanks.
And I don't see AJ on the call today, but do we have any public comments on this dog law? If you can.
Good thing dogs can't talk, right?
I wanted to let you know, I did speak with the chief of police prior to the meeting. Conflict this evening and won't be able to attend the meeting.
Okay,
Just
thank you.
You're welcome.
looks like someone's hand is raised.
Where do you see that?
Sag Harbor Hill.
I think that's Lisa.
Okay.
Looks like it was Lisa, I think.
Lisa, I see you were on for a second and then you, your camera mute. There you go. Hi.
Hi,
Hi.
Ms. Mulcahy. Hello, trustees. So I want to thank,
Can you introduce yourself, please?
oh, certainly. I'm Lisa Stenson Desamores of Hillside Drive West in Sag Harbor and president of the Sag Harbor Hills Improvement Association. I'd like to thank both the mayor and trustees, as well as village attorney Elizabeth Vale, for the proposed local law amending Chapter 80 in a manner which is in agreement and aligns with our requests over the past couple of months. And I also have two questions. So the first question is based upon this new local law to go into effect tomorrow, subject to the trustees' approval. May members of the public photograph individuals who violate this Chapter 80, who we observe on our beach, and maybe share those photographs with the police department for enforcement? Is as recently as the past week, there's been an incident on the beach where a homeowner did not have sufficient bags to collect their dog's refuse and simply covered sand over it.
So just to answer that, typically with violations, this is actually a violation. It's subject to a minimum fine of $200 and or 15 days, an appearance after 15 days. And so then there's additional violations, but usually violations have to be actually observed by the code enforcement officer or police officer who's charging someone. It can't be something reported by, you can call them to the site when that happens and report it. But the actual incident itself has to be personally observed. That's been my experience.
Okay. And the second question is based upon this proposed local law, is the prior local law amending chapter 186 withdrawn or on pause?
Yes, so it has not been specifically withdrawn. It just has not proceeded. And that is because I found that that particular law, the way it was written, conflicted with other sections of the existing code. So I took a step back and I'm reevaluating that and I'm going to be meeting with the chief of police and determining what sections of that law he would like to have implemented or that's missing from our current code. I don't want to create conflicting sections of the code. So I'm recommending that the village board leave that one and then we'll pursue another one if necessary after meeting with the chief of police.
Thank you.
And then this law doesn't go in effect tomorrow. It goes in effect after filing with the Secretary of State and coming back after this board adopts it.
Well,
Thank you for
although as I understand it, the law is already in effect. The Memorial Day, the Thursday to Memorial Day is in effect already. Isn't
Yes.
that part of the code?
Yes, that's already in the code. Yes.
So
I'm just saying the amendment is not in effect until it comes back from the Secretary of State. It's been filed.
but the no dogs on the beach goes into effect tomorrow because it's already in our code.
Right, it's already, the current code is in effect until this local law amending it is actually procedurally adopted by this board and then filed with the Secretary of State.
All right. Do we have any other comments? All right. Does the board feel ready to vote on this, or do we want to leave it open, or how is?
You have two hands up there, I think.
Oh, I see John Parker. John, are you giving us a thumbs up, or are you saying you want to speak? Chelsea, can you unmute John?
Hopefully I've unmuted.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, we just wanted to speak just briefly, just to clarify. I mean, first of all, this essentially in regards to Havens Beach is not changing the current law. I mean, it details and it clarifies it. The second part is that this is just the public beach. In other words, the village-owned beach that this applies to. Because some people have an idea that Havens Beach extends to the east in front of homeowners' properties. And I just want to clarify and make sure that people understand that this law is only for that portion of the beach known as Havens Beach. It's actually owned by the village.
Yes, that's correct.
So the 3 private beaches could put up their own laws on this, Liz?
No, I mean, private property owners don't put up laws. They have the right, they have the right to regulate their own private property to the high water mark, right? That's how property on the water.
But the 3 beaches that are run by the associations cannot say no dogs?
Well, they might have their own internal homeowners association rules, but that has nothing to do with the village and the village enforcement and this particular law before this board. So.
And Jim, who is the other hand? I don't see another hand up.
Looks like Bruce Fletcher.
Okay, Chelsea, can you unmute Bruce? There we are. Yes. Bruce, you're unmuted.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Very quick. I think John just asked a question that was important to me. In other words, basically, the dogs are prohibited down by Havens Beach and stuff like that. I was just worried that if I wanted to go out on my own private beach and play fetch with my dog, I still could. Not anybody else's beach, but on front of my property.
You can. This is only regulating the.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought. Thank you. Yeah. I think John answered that, and that I did understand. And it would be, if I had a problem with somebody coming on my private beach, I could file a complaint for trespassing at that point if I wanted to.
If it satisfied the statute, yes.
Okay. Good.
Kelsey, can you unmute Renee, please? And I would remind people to introduce themselves as they start.
Okay, Renee Simons, 100 Hillside Drive East in Sag Harbor Hills. So just for clarity, so I understand the law as it applies to Havens Beach, but we talk also in terms of the mean high water mark. I am assuming that public access to the mean high water mark may still exist, but dogs are not allowed to go along with the owner on the Sands Beach, for lack of, I'm just basically saying is Havens Beach ends, the 3 subdivisions, meanwhile high water mark begins. We are saying that dogs are not allowed on that beach, that part of the beach.
This law is only regulating Havens Beach that's owned and regulated by the Village of Sag Harbor. We're not proposing to regulate any portion of a private beach or private property with regard to this law. This is
Okay.
regulating dogs.
I understand that. My question is,
Sorry, I'm not understanding your question.
for the northern part of the water side of the mean high water mark, if someone is walking their dog along that, who does not own the property that is south of that, are they in violation of the village law or not?
On this particular, you're saying if they're walking their dog in the water or on the north of the water?
North of the mean high water mark, are they in violation of the village law?
Well, the village, okay. Well, that's very specific. Yeah, I'll have to think about that and get back to you.
Because technically it is not on private property, theoretically, today.
Renee, are you talking above or below the high water mark?
Water side of the mean high water mark, water side of it,
Okay.
The north side.
the north side.
Side. That would not be village jurisdiction as far as I know. I'm not an attorney, but from what I've read.
Well, I mean, typically under zoning, your zoning stops at the water, the high water mark, that's it.
And-
So I would tend to say no, but then, you do have, I'd have to actually look because you have that regulation where you change the state law and you're allowed to regulate up to 1,500 feet out. And I'm just thinking, I'm wondering if that applies. So I would like to look into that and get back to you.
Thank you, because that is a major issue for us.
Great.
So someone, for whatever reason, gets by the Havens Beach regulators and now are walking along the beach at the water's edge. Will the police monitor that and hold people accountable for that violation?
You're saying you wouldn't want them to even be able to walk below the high water mark. That's what you're saying. For
With
one,
dogs, with dogs.
yeah.
So, Lisa, can we unmute Lisa again, Sag Harbor Hills?
Thank you. Lisa Stenson Desmores again. So I had, for the most part, the same question as raised by Renee Simons, respecting homeowners walking their dogs, I'll say below the high water mark, really at the shoreline. And I previously had shared photos of homeowners with their dogs literally wading in the water. So
And
who has jurisdiction in
And
that?
I'd like to add, we also have photos of, sorry for the dog, and I will mute. These are people who are not homeowners in that area, but choose to walk their dog along that stretch of land.
Right. I understand the question now, and I'm going to have to look at that and get back to you.
Renee, this has been a chronic problem.
Sorry, yes.
Renee, this has been a chronic problem, correct? Over
Very
time.
chronic, multiple,
Very much so.
many arguments.
Right.
I have a right to walk here. They say, you can't stop me. And then you overlay this issue that I think was raised, that unless an officer is there, police officer is there, then the police department cannot hold that person accountable if we take photographs.
That's true.
So it's very onerous.
Right, well, it's an odd overlay between private property owners' rights and the public. I'm just wondering how you have policed it in the past yourselves, the community, that is.
We have called, and I defer to Lisa, who's the president of Sag Harbor Hills. Basically, we have called the police and they say, we'll try to get them not to do it. But there's no oversight. We can't arrest them. We
Right.
can't fine them. And frankly, on a personal level, I don't want to spend time arguing with them when they're giving you the finger, they're cursing you out,
Sure.
and they're basically saying, what are you going to do about it? Very, very entitled.
Disrespectful. They totally ignore our requests to pick up after their dogs. It's been a pervasive problem for years, and we request this be rectified because it's affecting the quality of our babies.
Right, I mean, if that's all it is, it's just picking up the poop. It doesn't seem like it's that much to ask for a dog owner.
It shouldn't be, but our requests are ignored.
Right,
They will not do it. They say, and basically I've had where somebody, what are you going to do about it?
right.
Bruce Fletcher? Get Bruce back unmuted again.
Okay. Yeah, you can hear me. Okay. Start video. This is just, I've looked at this, I understand what they're talking about. It occurs in front of our house too. I've tried to look in to see how anything can be regulated, and I've reached a dead end. And this is more towards the attorney. From what I found out, my understanding is below the mean average high mark is New York State land. It's
That's
not
my
Sag Harbor's.
Yeah.
Also, I looked into it as far as what Sag Harbor has been given authority to by the state, and it's mostly just for navigational issues.
It is, but
Docks, ramps, moorings and all that. And I don't believe New York State has given the authority to do anything else but to manage that. That's just my take on it, and I'll stop there.
Liz,
Thank you.
in East Hampton Village, the laws are you cannot bring a dog on the village beaches, period. So that's in front of the houses as well as at the lifeguard area, public beach. But it goes well beyond the flags because homeowners who bring their dogs down then get in trouble if their dogs are on the beach. So I don't know if you want to talk to the village, East Hampton Village, and see how they.
sure, I'd be happy to. I do know that, that gentleman is correct though, Mr. Fletcher, that below the mean high water mark is usually, depending on the water body, is owned by the state of New York or otherwise. And it's very difficult to regulate, and zoning stops at the water, obviously. These regulations were intended to cover the beach, but I'm not sure that they cover the below the high mean water mark. So I'd have to check, and I can reach out to East Hampton. That's fine.
Okay, John Parker?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Well, one, I agree with Bruce. In other words, having been involved in the extension of the village's authority for navigation law purposes, I know there's regulation. There is a section in terms of regulating beaches, but it's in regulating beaches in regards to the navigation law. And that extension of jurisdiction is for navigation law purposes only, which I don't think would involve dogs. The other point I want to make is that there are numerous homeowners, and I'm one, and Bruce Fletcher is one, who have dogs, and we don't have any objection to people walking their dog below the mean high water mark in front of our house. And I could name other property owners who have dogs too and who feel the same way. And I just say that because we're hearing from some property owners who have an objection But you should know that there are other property owners who don't have an objection to that.
So, John, there's no way though for a dog to get to your property under this, right? Other than come through your house. Now,
Well, yes, I mean, but they can come through any number of places.
and I also. All right.
I mean, I have more of an objection to, to drunk teenagers partying on my beach, than I do to people walking their dogs.
All right. Liz is going to do more research on how far the jurisdiction can go. But in the meantime, I would like to get this voted on so that we can be very clear that dogs are not allowed on from tomorrow until the Tuesday after Labor Day on Havens Beach, as well as they are allowed in the upland area for the dog park for the summer. And I would say in regards to the dog park owners must be very diligent about the fact that they do not run from the park onto the beach. And we are gonna really be looking for cooperation from all the dog park users in that regard so that we don't have repeated issues of dogs on the beach. So a question, Bruce, do you have something else you want to say? Okay. Can we unmute Bruce
Yeah,
Fletcher?
I'm getting there.
Okay.
The only thing the thought crossed my mind is, and I don't know whether it'd be cost prohibitive, or you could do it, is have a fenced in area in the uplands.
Tom? You want to-
It's just a thought I'm throwing out there, with a gate, double gate, saying this is where the dogs are supposed to go. It's sort of, and it's sort of like, gives them boundaries, like
Unfortunately,
a
we
patrol
can't-
car would,
Unfortunately, we can't do that because of the helicopter landing there and the ambulance having to go across.
Okay.
So, but we are, there's a continuing conversation here where the dog park belongs and how it can be managed better, et cetera. But this is going to get us this far, and then we'll continue the conversation.
Yeah, I think there's room for a continuing conversation on Havens Beach, and I take a holistic view of what's going on the east side of the green from a broader perspective, and see if we could not work in some sort of more formalized dog area there that would allow for all of the emergency services to use it as well. That's a longer term project, but it's certainly something that is being talked about right now.
All right. Board of Trustees, are we ready to take a vote on this?
I'll move it.
Thank you.
Second.
You, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Mayor, was the hearing closed?
No.
Sorry.
My motion was to close the hearing.
Okay, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, can I get a motion?
I'll move it.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. The next on our list is a discussion about the proposed Sag Harbor waterfront overlay. Again, this is a discussion. It is not public hearing. This is not being introduced at this point, but there have been some other changes made to this code that we want to let everyone know about. The first and foremost is we are going to take the majority of the waterfront of the office district out of the waterfront overlay. And this is, there's a very environmentally sensitive area, which as we were putting in for the sewage treatment plant grants on the Southampton side, we realized that it is truly so low that we cannot put a new code on top of it that then says you have to have different flood proofing things because it is so low, some of those flood proofing options may not be feasible. So that is the first part. Secondly, we are going to include all of Steinbeck Park within the overlay. Previously, only half of it was in there. It is now fully in there. And it is part of the parks PC area. The zoning map now has labels for the village parking lot, the post office, and the National Grid properties. And there's a note that the entire district is within the historic overlay district. The maximum building impervious coverage has been reduced to 70%. That is consistent with the current code. A superscript has been added to the use table in regards to office uses in the village business, and a note saying that the village business offices and banks are prohibited on the first floor and permitted on the second floor and above. The updated use table for the OD district is to be consistent with the current use table. The new added use for rooftop patio decks has been added to the accessory use table, which is shown as prohibited in all districts within the overlay. The awnings have been removed, all the confusing photographs or sketches, excuse me, have been removed. And the requirement of all development comply with the Suffolk County Sanitary Code and Chapter 220 of the Village Code, and that any cost for extension of a sewer service to be the responsibility of the applicant. And finally, we changed the word historic to historical, so it now reads encourage a diversity of scales, architectural styles, and materials, which respects the historical character and gives the village its authentic nature. In addition, we're preparing a letter to the Planning Commission to provide a status update as was required by the Planning Commission. Does the Board of Trustees have any questions? And Kathy, is there anything, Kathy Eisman from Nelson Pope is on the call. Is there anything that you want to add to what I just said and or Aiden to talk about?
No, the request for the Suffolk County Planning Commission letter is because we had been asked to come back in June. And since we will likely be back, hopefully in July, I asked Andy Freeling if it would be okay if we sent a letter instead, just to give a status update to the Planning Commission. So he said that would be fine. So I would send a copy to all of you as well, once that's ready.
Okay.
I would like to make sure that all the board has all seen Randy Croxton's video, little presentation. It's like 3 minutes long of it's essentially about the dimensional aspects of this code. And if you haven't seen it, you really need to see it, in my opinion.
Trustee LaRocca?
Yes, just this is a process question. You just described 6 or 7 items that have advanced or changed. Are those coming here now as recommendations of the committee, the consultant? Just procedurally, what is the status of what you just presented?
Procedurally, that will be that will all be added into the code that will be presented on June 8th to be presented to everyone. It's mostly, the majority of those are from comments that we received from the Chamber of Commerce, the Sag Harbor Partnership, various others, and then the large one about the office district is really just something that we felt we could not keep in there and write new code for one. We really don't know until we do much more study in there of what could be built.
What came up?
Did I hear that to mean that the committee met and this represents a consensus view or a majority view or a unanimous view or whatever, but the committee, this is the work of the committee of further amending and modifying the work to date, so that will come to us, will include and reflect these latest adjustments.
Yes.
Right.
Thank
And
you.
eventually the board will vote on the whole thing, eventually, after the public hearings.
Aiden, did you want to?
I was just saying that the office district situation came about as part of our deep, sort of granular investigation of that area by Cameron Engineering. We felt that the groundwater flow there needs to be examined before we could make any recommendations of what might happen on those sites, because we could upset the groundwater, and there could be effects that might be seen, for argument's sake, in the basement of the hardware store, where we already know that groundwater exists. And so if people were to drive piles, or people were to put screw piles into the ground for building there, that we would need to investigate that area more before we could determine what may or may not happen there. It's out of an abundance of caution.
When it does come to us, as the completion of that phase of things, and it comes before the board will be able to amend as part of its process.
Sure.
It's not all of it. I do want to say a word about an idea that I've raised before. And so first, thank Liz for a very thoughtful and comprehensive legal memo on the subject of a role for the Board of Trustees. The context, of course, now is we're looking at it in terms of a limited overlay district, but it's the same issue whether we're talking about the code in the entire village or just in the overlay district, in terms of the appropriateness of the Board of Trustees having a role at the end of the process. I just want to mention that that's still rattling around in my head, and I would urge everyone to take a good look at what Liz has provided. It's very thoughtful, and I think it should be part of our discussion when this comes to us, because I continue to hope and think that there may be a role for us that can be worked through, but I don't propose to engage that here tonight.
A local law, just so everybody knows, can be changed throughout the hearing process and can be amended. It just by the board as the process proceeds, even if after you've noticed it and the public hearing is open. It just has to be in its final form for 7 calendar days, I think exclusive of Sunday, before the board adopts it. That's the law on that.
But thank you, Liz, for that good work. Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments from the board? All right, so we will move on.
I'm going to say goodnight. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, Kathy. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right, it is time for public hearing or public comments. If anybody has a public comment, if they want to raise their hand, and we will unmute you at this point. Tommy John Schiavone, please. Can we unmute Tommy John, please? Hello.
Good evening, everybody. Can you hear me?
We can.
Yeah, good evening.
Thank you. I'm here to support item number 2 on your agenda. This is the intermunicipal agreement between the Village of Sag Harbor and the town of Southampton. I don't know if you treat those like public hearings, if I could chime in at that point, or if this is a better time to talk.
You're talking, keep talking.
Okay. But we passed this last night, and we hope that the village would pass it as well. This is the agreement between the Village of Sag Harbor and the town of Southampton to use Foster Memorial Beach as well as Sag Main Beach. In our discussions at the town, we also included Mecox and Scott Cameron as well, as the people of Sag Harbor use not only Sag Main Beach, but also there's a significant contingent that goes over to Scott Cameron and Mecox as well. So I just wanted to be here in case the board had any questions, and I want to commend the mayor and the board for your work on this, and thank you.
Thank you very much for supporting it. As I joined part of the meeting last night for the public discussion part, and so yeah, thank you to Jay and you and Ryan, who really made this all happen. So we appreciate it, and I gather it passed unanimously last night, so I'm very happy. Trustee Korish?
Yeah, I'd just like to thank Councilman Schiavone. This is really great news for at least almost half the people in the village. It was a lot of consternation when this came about. I think this is a great, great solution. I understand this is just for this year, and we're going to have further discussions for next year and thereafter. But it's a great start, and I'd like to thank you and everybody on the board in Southampton for making this happen. Thank you.
Very good.
All right, great. Can we unmute Anthony, please? Thank you, Tommy John.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi, Anthony Vermandois, 68 Union Street. Just something quick for tonight. I was wondering if I could ask that a couple more no parking signs be placed on the north side of Union Street as you're turning in from Division Street and heading west. Used to be the south side of the street was the problem, but they put a couple of extra signs up and it's actually gotten better on the south side, but now the north side has become an issue. Actually, just before I came on tonight, or before you folks came on, there's a work truck parked there for 35 minutes. 20 minutes they were in cilantros making the order, then 15 minutes sitting in the truck eating, blocking a full lane of traffic. So I think a couple of extra signs might help a little bit because there's only the one as you turn in from Division Street on that side of the street.
We'll take that to the chief, and we're actually voting on no parking on the other side tonight, so I'm sure.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
There you go.
All right. Okay, there you go.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see anyone else. So we have no correspondence for review, but we do have some correspondence requiring action. And I don't know if Jacqueline Finnegan is on the line yet from No Dogs Left Behind. She actually thought we were having an in-person meeting, so she came and knocked on my door to find out where it was. But she said she was only 2 minutes from home and would be able to get home. But I do not see her at the moment.
Judge, it's actually more a.
Oh, okay. Oh, great.
I'm Jack's assistant. I'm sorry I knocked on your door earlier,
Okay.
and thank you for letting me join. Yes, so I had submitted an application to have a walk for awareness, which was supposed to be held on June 19th at Havens Beach. And ironically, it's a dog walk because it's for an organization called No Dogs Left Behind. And we're raising awareness to help stop the Yulin Festival, which is about to start in China. And we are raising awareness for this organization that is rescuing dogs, and they're flying them to the States and we're getting them homes. So these dogs are getting brutally tortured, and some of them are stolen pets. And I actually have 2 rescued from the organization myself. And that's why I'm, an advocate. So I understand that now we have these new rules for Havens Beach. However, we were not going to go on the beach for the walk. We were just going to gather in the parking lot, and then we were going to start our walk through the village.
I guess.
Yeah, I'll make the motion to pass this.
Well, my only concern is that the map for the walk is also through Marine Park and then under the bridge to Long Wharf, under the bridge, and through Steinbeck Park, where dogs are also not supposed to be. So, Maura, if you can change the route so that it isn't going through the parks. I know when the ambulance did their dog walk a few years ago, we went up, we came out of Havens down to High Street, up High Street, and then down Franklin and back and around.
Okay, yes, I actually called the person who ran the ambulance walk. I was trying to get feedback from them, but I didn't hear back because I was gonna, try to copy their walk, but I just created that walk myself. And we weren't going to go through Marine Park. We were just going to pass it because I understand there's also a fair going on that day. So we don't want to interfere, with that.
Yep. I think also better to stay outside of the business district on a June weekend.
I know. I agree. I tried to have this in May, but we just didn't have everything together. So I know June is a very busy time. So when would you like me to have the new route prepared?
If you can just, what I would suggest is reach out again to the ambulance corps. I don't know who you have. Oh, sorry, Tom.
Oh.
Yep.
I can give you the route right now if you'd like it.
Great.
Okay,
All right, so we start at Havens Beach, we go along, we come out of Havens Beach, go down Bay Street towards the American Legion, make a left. You can either make a left before Rysam Street or at Rysam Street, go up Rysam Street, and then back down High Street, down to Bay Street again, and then back to Havens Beach. So it's basically a circle there.
Okay. Do you know how long the route is?
I want to say it's just about a mile.
It's about a mile. Okay. Okay. I mean, that's fine. I was thinking a little bit longer and to like touch on Main Street a little bit, but if you think it's just not going to be a good idea, you know.
I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think it's a good idea with traffic and everything to go down Main Street with a bunch of dogs.
Okay.
I don't think it's safe.
So, Maura, I think once you have, walk the route yourself, do whatever you think you should, and then if you would draw it out and share it with the village office as well as with our police chief, please. But
Sure. Okay.
I think we can take a provisional vote in the meantime.
and you'll all bring your pooper bags, right?
Oh, yes, we'll supply tons of those.
So I already made the motion. So
Second,
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maura.
So much.
good luck, Maura.
Get my cat to
you.
behave. I wish I'd bring her, but
I just have a question. I have one last question. Where do we get information as like if we wanted to participate?
Okay, we're gonna post it up on Facebook and I'm gonna send out, email invites, and I'm also gonna put up some posters in the stores, some flyers around, if that's okay. I'll
Thank you.
make sure you know about it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
all right. Thank you. The next is the resolution authoring to sign the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Southampton to allow the village of Sag Harbor residents on the East Hampton side to access Scott Cameron, Mecock, Sag Main, and Long Beach. For the permits will cost $40 as opposed to what would have been $360. And the village will compensate with a $10,000 agreement with Southampton Town.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
Second,
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next is authorization to sign the workers' compensation funding contribution upon renewal with New York State Workers' Comp in the amount of $130,000 per year. Get a motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Authorization to award the plumbing services for the year to the sole bidder, GF Schiavone, at the hourly rate of $144.99.
so moved.
Thank you. Thank you, Jim. All in favor?
Aye.
Bob motion, Jim seconded. Okay. Authorization to award the electrical services to the sole bidder, CJ Lapizia, at the hourly rate of $85.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second,
All in favor?
All in favor? Aye. Authorization to sign the agreement for Sound Actuarial Consulting to prepare the gas fee 75 analysis for the fiscal year. Can I get a motion?
oh,
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Nancy Benvin of Mash Hashemute Park requests a special event permit for a 5K family fun run event to raise awareness and fun for Mash Hashemute Park on September 11th at 8 a.m. Dates for setup will fall on September 10th and site cleanup will happen immediately after.
I'll move it.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next is from Rove Loop Road Loop, as we know, was hoping to, last summer, create a transit idea where they would do a deal with the school. There was a deal where people could park up there and Road Loop would bring them into the village. That obviously did not happen given the pandemic and the idea of getting into a little tiny car. However, they are going to do the on demand. The hours of operation will be 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. They will provide flat rate rides within a 2.5 mile radius of the village. That it will be through a mobile application that can be downloaded on the Apple's App Store. They are asking if we could give them a space at night after their 10 o'clock shift ends to use the electric on the wharf. And in return, what they will do is let employees use a pass that they could be picked up at home or wherever within a 2.5 mile radius of the town and brought down to work. This would obviously be much better if they were working from 10 a.m. on, but they do not have enough drivers at the time being to be able to staff to do 2 full staffs. So
They'll be paying for the power like anybody else. We just
no,
provided.
they're asking us to pay for the power.
They're asking us to pay for the power.
Nope.
I'm with Tom on that. We've had a number of people have come before us looking for space, and I think we've been fairly resolute on that. I just have a hard time with the village paying for the fuel for this operation.
I just want to know what the village residents and taxpayers are getting in return. That's
Well,
my.
again, had it been done the way that we had hoped it was going to be done with them bringing, we were going to keep a lot of traffic out of town, but unfortunately that did not work. So.
I mean, I like the idea. I think it's progressive, but I just can't countenance having the village taxpayers, to Tom's point, paying for the fuel for private enterprise, which is what it is. As laudable as the whole thing is, it just crosses the line for me.
Are those vehicles parked right now at Tutu Bene? Those are the
Yes.
little white things?
Yes,
Okay.
one is for Sag Harbor and one is going to Montauk.
Oh.
I mean, if they need to cover the cost of the fuel, then they should just raise their prices that amount.
Yeah, it's really not so much the cost of it. They do have an electric station there at Tuto. They just felt it was a little bit more visible there, and they were willing to do the free employee rides downtown in return for it. But
I mean, if they were running it, from 6 in the morning when it could be beneficial to the village, it would be. But at 10 o'clock, everyone's where they're supposed to be. Plus, I think it sets a precedent that will be very hard for us to turn down later on. So anyhow, I think I've made myself plain.
all right. So can I get a motion to vote on it?
What are we voting on then? Are we?
Well, I think we're voting to say no.
Oh, okay.
Hearing, but we have to still, or do we just, Liz, do we vote on it or just,
You're voting to authorize it.
Yeah, no,
Your
you would
motion.
so we're just taking it off?
just fail or just take it off the agenda. You don't have to vote to authorize it.
All right,
That's included, so.
great. The next is authorizing a agreement with Montauk Ice. The harbor master has made a deal with Montauk Ice to be able to have a cooler to sell ice to the boats, given that our 7-Eleven is not there. So I think this will be
Yep.
great. Can I get a motion?
I'll move it.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The next is authorization to accept the resignation of part-time officer Joshua Zeno, effective immediately. I'll make the motion.
Second.
You, all in favor?
Aye.
Chief of Police Austin McGuire respectfully requests that the parking regulations be changed to include no vehicle shall park on the north side of East Union Street.
Does need to be a local law. I'm sorry, but the parking regs are always done by local law in the code, so I'll have to draft a proposed local law for public hearing.
Okay, so we will table that. Deborah O'Brien, President of the Sag Harbor Volunteer Ambulance Corps, requests authorizations to hire a number of EMTBs at the hourly rate of $20.50. I believe Deputy Mayor, you wanted to say something about this? And
Sure. These are all part-time employees that will be hired at the rate of $20.50. And what this will accomplish for the village and the fire ambulance district is it will allow us to have a full crew. That is a driver and a CC, critical care EMT or paramedic. The driver will be a qualified driver and a basic EMT. So we'll have a crew immediately out the door when a call comes in. We won't have to reactivate to try to get a driver. They will respond immediately. If the volunteers happen to show up during the day and the call is what's called a BLS call, which is basic life support, then the EMTB will take the patient, will put the critical care, advanced life support person back in service, and the volunteer will then drive them to the hospital or assist. So this gives us full coverage from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m.
great.
Great. I think that's great, Tom. I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Aiden.
Second,
Favor?
Aye.
Authorization to award the sludge hauling contract to Emil Sick at the rate of $250 per 1,000 gallons.
So moved.
All second, all in favor.
Aye.
Authorization to increase Francis Schiavone's salary to $50,000 effective as of and retroactive to March 23rd. This is to reflect that Fran has passed his test and is now a
Operator 2A.
plant operator 2A.
And well deserved. I would like to make that motion and congratulate Fran again for great success.
I'll second that.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
And a resolution to provisionally appoint Fran Schiavone to the position of wastewater treatment plant operator 2A.
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
And can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
Mayor, if I might, just for a moment.
Of course.
I thought we were going to take a minute to report on the startup of the parking on Long Wharf.
Sure.
Within that report, I think, and Ed and I have discussed this a little bit, there was a breach by Park Mobile, not involving the village or this program at all. It happened back in March. The question that's been raised, at least in one newspaper, but I've had two correspondents on it myself, is what steps have been taken, and I think Aiden is prepared to address those steps. The other thing that came up in that report was that the company, like probably half the people we deal with these days in the electronic universe, do collect data, which they then do sell to third parties. And somewhere in the complicated contracts, there's an opportunity to opt out, but it's not so readily apparent. So as we start up, I think we want to remind ourselves that a matter like this thing that happened in March should be a subject of disclosure. And now that we are part of that operating system, so the public knows about it, to make their own judgments about it. And two, to see if there's some way to assure that the opt-out provision from the company sharing people's personal data is more readily accessible to users.
I'd like to speak to that briefly. The data breach was, we signed our contract around March 23rd. We had corresponding contracts so over those couple of days. The data breach was reported on March 26th. So we can assume it happened before the 26th. So that was like a full 50 days before we initiated any parking here. Actually, it's 50 days before we put our, 48 days before we put the signs up, and 50 days before anybody could have initiated any sort of interaction with Parkmobile. I've been a long-time member of Parkmobile. I use them all around the country. Like I use, I buy Starbucks online. I shop on Amazon. I mean, our entire universe, especially over the last year with COVID, has moved online. So transacting online is not anything that's the new or esoteric. With every transaction, there is a vulnerability. We saw that recently with the Texas pipeline. Around the same week that that Parkmobile had this issue, Facebook had 530 million worldwide. There has some data hacking. But something to remember with Parkmobile, they don't keep security numbers, social security numbers. They don't keep driver's license numbers. They don't keep dates of birth. That's not part of the transaction. Of all the passwords that were stolen, none of the keys that they would need to decipher those passwords were taken. And as a member of Parkmobile, I was notified because I had an ongoing contract with them as a user, and I thought they handled the whole thing very well. This is a sign of the times. It's we can't retreat from it, and it's just something everybody does need to be aware of. And I thank Jim for bringing it up. People can make the decisions of how they want to interact with these companies. To a large extent, judging by the number of FedEx vans and Amazon vans and UPS vans delivering around Sag Harbor, people seem fairly comfortable with shopping online and getting deliveries. And this seems like nothing else. It's good to be aware of it, and I think Parkmobile handled it well. No doubt their security has been stepped up since this, and they've closed that vulnerability. And hopefully we won't see anything like this in the future.
Deputy Mayor Gardell.
My question is to Aiden. When do you think we'll get some feedback, Aiden, as far as like how many people park and how much revenue?
Actually, we are getting that now. We could share. We're already in the black on it, so that's good. I think we will get a report every Tuesday, I believe.
Yes.
So the next big report will be after the weekend. We'll have it on Tuesday, so we'll know what
Probably
the parking
won't come until Wednesday because there is the Monday off.
There's the Monday holiday. So on Wednesday, so we could share that Wednesday so we can see. And it's a great big spreadsheet. It shows you exactly who paid what and at what time. It stripped out all of the personal information, but you can see when parking session started and ended and how much was paid.
Yeah. My other question is, the first responders we said were parked for free, correct?
That is correct.
And how is that implemented? Is it just by the plate that's on their car that says fire department or ambulance? And
That is correct.
okay.
Yeah, that they don't need to do anything. If they have a plate on the car, all of the TCOs are fully briefed. We are also, I prepared some maps that have been printed and have been distributed by our chief to the TCOs. And so we've had a soft start. We understand that this is new and it needs to get off on the right foot. So we haven't been ticketing people. We've been putting a brochure on their window, which tells them, explains why we have paid parking. It shows them how to sign up to Parkmobile. And it also includes a map of the village showing all of the free parking that's available, should they choose to not want to pay. So Parkmobile, our Long Wharf parking is about 10% of our downtown parking. So people have choices, and we're very cognizant of the fact that some people may not want to pay, and that's absolutely the right. And we are doing everything we can to direct them towards the free parking that is available throughout the village.
Well, thank you for all your hard work on this, Trustee Korish.
Thanks.
Much appreciated.
I appreciate that. Thank
And
you.
as we finish up, Hayden, I would appreciate if there is a way I haven't signed up, so I don't know the process, but that opt-out opportunity be fairly clear to someone coming into the system. I've seen these things buried in contracts, and I've seen them right up front on different kind of things, so that the opt-out should be something that's easy to find.
I agree with you. I'll dig into that tomorrow, and I think if I can put together something and maybe make an addition to this little pamphlet that we're handing out that will draw attention to people as to how they can opt out, to make it very clear to anybody who wants to participate, that they have that opportunity and to instruct them as to how that can happen. I agree. I'll be happy to do that too.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
You mean opt out altogether or just opt out?
No, just opt out of their information being traded.
And it's relatively easy because I did it when I signed up, as I do with everything that I sign up for.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I signed up and I parked and they said, I put 1 hour and they said no charge. It was pretty simple.
That cost the village 30 cents, Bob.
You owe us 30 cents.
Okay,
That was my nightmare, that everybody would only park for an hour.
right. It cost us money.
And it would end up. Yeah, no, but we are. I think we're in the positive by about $1,400 at this stage. One thing to remember this year, we won't have Bay Street Theater operating on the wharf, as far as I know, unless something has changed. So the demand for parking down there will be somewhat reduced over what we would normally expect over a summer.
I believe the theater is going to operate. I don't know if they're operating at full capacity, but they are doing indoor theater.
Oh, good. I'm delighted to hear that. Great.
All right. Now can I get a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second. Good
Okay.
All in favor?
All right.
Good night, all.
night.
Have a nice weekend, everybody.
You too. Thanks, Jim.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.